What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be breaking down the spoilers for My Hero Academia Chapter 324, which immediately picks up from last week with Ochaco begging the civilians to let Deku back into UA. This chapter features the return of several minor characters in both the forms of flashbacks and just in the present day, including this guy who was killed during the war arc, this civilian who wished Deku good luck in like the very first episode, and also this lady who Deku saved during the villain hunt. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on for weekly spoiler videos like this, and let me know in the comments, what do you think of the chapter? Okay, so chapter 324 begins with a long narration from Uraraka saying that she always loved seeing people happy, and when she saw heroes in action, she paid more attention to the people smiling in the crowd than the heroes themselves. The civilians at UA seem to notice the mess that Deku has become, commenting that he looks weakened and all beaten up. The giant woman who I mentioned in the intro says that Midoriya saved her, and then he immediately left to continue fighting. Despite that, one of the civilians in the crowd is especially skeptical, and he asks Ochaco if she is asking for the civilians to also get covered in mud and blood as well. She replies by saying that's not the case, as they just need to give Deku some time to clean up all the mud. And, this is referring to Jeanist's plan, as Jeanist said in the last chapter that they don't really want Deku to stay at UA permanently, it's just a temporary solution to, let him recover whilst he's there, and then immediately go back out into the fight. Class 1A are shocked by what they're seeing from Ochaco as she's kind of like commanding the stage, and Ida tells Deku that right now she's fighting to protect everyone's smiles, including his. Deku then begins to cry and shout her name, and she continues her speech saying that the heroes can't put people at ease because they are also afraid, and this shows that they are just like everyone else. In the narration, she wonders once again who will save the heroes when they're in pain, and I'm calling it now, this is officially Ochaco's catchphrase, because this is about the third or fourth time she's thought it or said it out loud. But it's a valid statement to make though, because heroes are human beings, regular civilians might not perceive them as that, and so in that way, people don't really feel sympathetic to heroes. They don't really feel like heroes are able to show weakness and things like that, which is why certain people in particular are not really caring about the fact that Deku needs to come back to UA, but rather they just think heroes are almost like these robots that need to go out and protect them. Anyway, the spoilers say that we see several panels showing different characters, including Aizawa, who is still in the hospital. There's then another flashback of Ochaco with her parents, and they are watching the fight of a hero named Eel Boy, but Ochaco is too busy looking at other people's expressions. Eel Boy wins and smiles at her, which makes Ochaco laugh. And for those who don't know, Eel Boy is the guy from the war arc who was stabbed in the back of the head by Twice, and his quirk was quite interesting. I actually mentioned it in a video I did about all the different quirks in the war arc. Basically what it does, it lets him shoot out these different eels from, I guess, each of his hands, and they seem to have some degree of sentience, almost like Dark Shadow. They kind of operate on their own to an extent. Twice not only stabbed this guy in the back of the head, but Toga then pretended to be this person and then went on to stab other heroes as well. In the present day, Ochaco asks the civilians to lend their strength so that they can get through these difficult times, so that they can all smile together again. At this moment, she remembers Toga crying and hesitates for a second, but then asks the civilians to stay by Deku's side while he rests. Just quickly on that point about Toga crying, so this actually happened back in the war arc, and I think there's two reasons why Ochaco hesitates here. Number one is that she's a person who always likes to see other people happy, as we know, and the fact that she as a hero made someone else cry instead of making them smile, I think that's what gave her reason to pause for a second. Now, the second reason is possibly due to what they actually spoke about in their conversation, as during that talk, Toga was basically trying to explain that she can't suppress her nature, and that when she loves someone, she has to drink their blood and transform into them. That's just the way she is. And Ochaco wasn't sympathetic to that. She was just like, if you're going to commit these crimes, you need to pay the price. And that is what caused Toga to cry, because Ochaco didn't understand her. Back at UA, Uraraka says that Deku has tried to carry the burden of his quirk all by himself, but that deep down he's just a high school student who has a lot to learn. And this is something that I think we often forget. Deku is literally 16 years old? I think they're all 16 or 15 years old. So, all the stuff they're going through, that's pretty heavy to be dealing with at that age. And it's reasonable for the adults to let him into UA, let him rest for a bit, and then go back out to the battlefield. It's not that much to ask. Deku then falls to his knees as he remembers the first time he met Uraraka at the UA entrance exam, and we get a double-page spread of her yelling at everyone, saying to let him stay here at this hero academy. At the same time, we get a rare narration from adult Deku, and he says that this is the story of how he became the greatest hero, and also something else. The something else will be revealed in a few seconds, but first, the principal remembers his speech about the lack of understanding and intolerance, and how sometimes it only takes one step for people to understand each other. The giant woman and Kota then dash towards Deku, and we see a mini flashback of Kota choosing his red sneakers with Mandalay. Those sneakers were obviously inspired by Kota's admiration for Midoriya, and we kind of already knew that already just based on his reaction in Season 4, but still, it's cool to get this 110% confirmation that, Deku is Kota's hero. The narration from adult Deku then continues, and he says that this is also the story of how they all became the greatest hero, which is a massive twist on that line that we heard in, like, I think the second episode. But now, I mean, this is basically implying that they are all collectively going to be the greatest. It's not a one-person thing. And I think this is actually a good thing, because if we look back at All Might's time as the #1 hero, as soon as he retired, everything went to crap, basically. But I guess in the future, if the whole of Class 1A, and I guess other heroes as well, if they are all collectively the greatest hero, I guess that means that if one person retires or if one person dies, then it's not the end of the world, because they all have each other's backs, if you know what I mean. The chapter then ends with present day Deku on the ground crying as Kota and the giant woman reach out to him. And yeah, that's the end of it. So one thing that wasn't mentioned in this specific leak was that the guy from the very first episode, you know, the guy with like the weird star-shaped things on his head, so that was the guy that wished Deku good luck on his journey to become a hero. And this guy was in the crowd at UA with an umbrella, just watching the whole thing unfold. So I'm kind of curious to know, like, does he remember Deku? I mean, I guess he does look kind of different from when they first interacted. But on the other hand, it wasn't that long ago, so maybe he would remember this. But yeah, it's a pretty cool cameo. Anyway guys, if you have any thoughts on this chapter or any predictions for next week, then be sure to let me know in the comments down below, and also hit that sub button if you haven't already. Until the next one, peace out.